Welcome back, everybody. It's the College Football Show on Betting Pros. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. I'm joined, like always, by Thor Nystrom at Thor KU on the Twitter, and Mike Farrell at M Farrell Sports. 2 R's, 2 L's on the Twitter machine. Today, we're going to be talking about a very, very fun Week 3. I think for matchups, for betting, I feel like Week 3 is fun. For matchups, Week 4 is more fun. But we will get to Week 4 in Week 4. Gentlemen, how was your Week 2, Thor? How did it go for you?
I don't know that I'll have a better betting week than I did in Week 2. I want to tell everyone out there, don't expect that every week. But yeah, we made some money this past weekend. We cashed some tickets, so it was a good weekend.
Look at that big old smile from Thor, too. Farrell, how did Week 2 treat you?
I didn't do as well as Thor, but I think he did pretty good. He was on fire. I mean, we agreed on a lot of stuff, which was lucky for me, because he was hot. And I didn't know he was hot. We usually disagree on a lot of stuff, but we agreed on a lot of different things last week, and I just sort of rode the coattails.
Hey, it makes you nervous when you are agreeing that much, but hey, when it works, and ride the tails when they're hot. So we are going to get into Week 2 in just 1 second. I just got to tell you guys right now, college football fans, are you ready to put your betting skills to the test? Join the Betting Pros College Football Podcast betting group. Make your picks all season long, and if you're among the top ROI performers, you could win big. Prizes include a Garrett Wilson Ohio State signed jersey and premium subscriptions to Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. Just make at least 100 picks through the season to qualify. Join now at bettingpros.com/college or in the Betting Pros app under the College Football Podcast group. May the best better win. All right, boys, let's get into the Week 2 slate. And we're going to start at number 14, LSU, a 9-point road favorite at Mississippi State. 53.5 is the total here. Thor, we saw LSU struggle with Florida State. Still a good team. Mississippi State had some issues with Arizona last week. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, with Mississippi State, I just need to see them more before I can trust them or trust my read to fade them, sort of a thing. Obviously, you go from the Mike Leach air raid to what is now the former Appalachian State offensive schema, where it's more of the ground and pound thing. And like you said, they've struggled to put away Arizona. I think Arizona is better than the public does, but they needed overtime to get rid of them. This is a weird game, though, and a very interesting one. One I'm going to be watching for educational purposes because I'll tell you, I don't think you can lay 9.5 points with LSU in this spot, certainly not 10 or above that. My line on this game is LSU minus 7.2 points. This line should be LSU minus a touchdown. You're going to have to pay that bit of inflation because everyone's just as trepidatious about Mississippi State as I am. But LSU on the road laying that many points against an underdog that could be live here, I just don't think you can do it. Despite my bullishness on LSU, and I'm a little bit out on Mississippi State, but I just need more data before I'd be able to go the other way in a game like this.
Farrell, you're rocking some LSU colors today. Does that mean you're going to be on the LSU side, or is this one I can't figure this game out, so I'll just pass it to you.
I don't really have a sample size of LSU. They were highly ranked, of course, but they fell apart in the second half against Florida State. I don't know if this is a good team or a bad team. I don't know if this is a well-coached football team. It just doesn't seem to be. I'm not laying that many points on the road. I think the Cowbells are going to at least cover. I think this is a 7-point game, 6-point game, something like that. So I don't trust LSU. I don't like Mississippi State. They got lucky last week. They're not a great football team, and they're making a lot of changes, as Thor mentioned. But no, you cannot lay 9.5 or 9 if you get that number on the road and start to with a team that you can't trust right now who fell apart against Florida State.
All right, let's go over to Florida State, the aforementioned number 3, 25.5-point road favorites on the road against Boston College. The total is 49 in this game. Most tickets, over 90%, tickets and cash, almost all the cash is on Florida State here. What we've seen from them so far, Thor, is a national title contender, and they're ranked number 3 for a reason. They look awesome. Boston College, kind of the opposite. is this too much to lay on the road for a team that looks like a national title contender, because the money and the tickets are on Florida State, and Florida State probably putting up the majority of this total as well?
Yeah, objectively, no. My line on this game is Florida State minus 30.6 points. Whether they cover that, or whether they cover the under the 4 touchdown thing, it's all their prerogative. Florida State can name the score here just on a talent basis. I was more bullish on the Boston College team coming into the season than I should have been. Last year they had the sort of hand of God fluke cluster injuries on the offensive line where they just couldn't field an offense after that. And then, of course, Jurkovec got hurt and everything. And I figured with all the offensive linemen coming back, you get them all healthy. Jurkovec is out, but I thought that was fine because the last 2 years it had screwed up their season, him getting hurt. I thought they were going to be better, but they certainly haven't been. They lost at home in the first game to NIU. NIU last week lost to an FCS team. Boston College last week barely got by an FCS team in Holy Cross. I don't like this Boston College team at all. I definitely like Florida State. And in the Southern Miss game, Mike Norvell and company gave us some proof of concept that they might have an idea what the spread is, and they might still be pushing things late in the fourth quarter, stuff like that. So that's a data point that, to potentially back up, what my data is showing, which is this line is not big enough. This one for me would be Florida State or pass.
Farrell, you agree? Is it all Florida State all the time, like the tickets and money says?
Yeah, I mean, BC stinks. I thought they would cover 10 against Holy Cross. It's an FCS team. I mean, they should win by 20. I mean, they're just bigger, stronger, faster. Holy Cross is a nice little program in Massachusetts. They were honoring, the great Billy McGovern, the former UCLA coach, Boston College coach for a very long time, former Holy Cross star. Maybe that helped Holy Cross, but BC loved the man as well. I thought they would come out and play with a little more passion. They barely won the football game. They lost to Northern Illinois. They stink. They're not good. Florida State is going to roll them and roll them bad. I can't see how BC stays within that number.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough week for Boston College, and just another notch in the belt, it seems like, for Florida State. Let's move over to number 7, Penn State, a 14.5-point road favorite at Illinois. 48.5 is the total in this one. Another tickets and cash heavy on the favorite here, Thor. It's a road favorite again. Illinois, they're better than Boston College, but I would not call them good. They got rolled by Kansas last week. How do you see this one going?
Rock chalk, baby. My line on this game is Penn State minus 17.2. I have a Penn State minus 14 ticket in pocket on this game. A couple of different things. First of all, I don't like Illinois, not impressed with them at all. They lost a historical amount of talent in the offseason compared to any other season in school history. Witherspoon, the Brown brothers, just go on down the line, Quay Martin, on down the line. They lost a whole bunch. And then, on the other side, I like Penn State, I think, more than the market. Over the summer, I was saying I think this could be the year that they pass at least Ohio State. That, and what we've seen so far, it's that sort of borne out, in the early going. But I would toss out a couple other things for this handicap. Not just the quantifiable stuff on the field, but some stuff maybe off the field and stuff like that could point towards Penn State being the value that my system also thinks. I'll make a couple of points here. Point number 1, James Franklin is now 64, 49, and 3 against the spread during his time at Penn State. That is 60.9%. Started this season 2-0 against the spread. You wonder in games like this, is the team that's favored laying the couple of touchdowns, are they going to be motivated to keep the foot on the throat of the underdog? Are they going to be trying to just deflate the ball at the end of the game if they get that lead? Or is the coach staff aware of the spreads? James Franklin gave us proof of concept. Oh, he has in past years, but recently against West Virginia, where Penn State absolutely could have just ran the clock out in that game. In their last drive, they were up by, it's like they were a 21-point favorite, and they were up by something like 16 or 17 on their last drive. Absolutely could have just ended the game right there, but instead they try to drive to score the touchdown. They go for it on 4th and 2 during that drive. They convert it, and then when they got the first to go, That's when literally they could have just kneeled and the game would have been over. No. James Franklin wanted that touchdown to cover over West Virginia. He got it. It's one of the reasons why this guy's covering 61% of his games while at Penn State. James Franklin seems to care more about the spread than almost every other coach out there. He wants to cover it. The other thing I would say about this, there's two other points I would make about this as far as motivation for the Penn State side. Number one, 2 years ago, Brett Bielema's first season in Illinois goes to Happy Valley. They upset Penn State in 9 overtimes. Still an NCAA record. The game goes to 9 overtimes. Illinois ends up winning that game. It was the game where, for Illinois, that was like the Brett Bielema has arrived sort of game. They still point back to that game. And Penn State still thinks about it. They should not have lost that game. I think Illinois went into that game 2-5. Obviously, Illinois was feeling themselves in the aftermath. These two teams did not play last season. That is still on the mind of Penn State to get revenge for that game. The one other thing I will say, on Monday, Brett Bielema goes up. He has his press conference, and they ask Brett Bielema about Penn State. I want to read you a quote that Brett Bielema said during his press conference on Monday. This is a direct quote. So he's asked about Penn State. He is responding about Penn State. Quote, "They do a tremendous job in recruiting, and they're allowed to do things there at Penn State that allow them to get a lot of skill position players in the program." Seem to be directly insinuating that James Franklin cheats. James Franklin does not need any motivation to put his foot on the throat of an opponent, especially when the point spread is still up for grabs. This time he is going to be extra motivated to do so. Penn State in a laugher.
Farrell, are you following the Penn State disrespect here from Illinois, Thor's theory, or is it just, look, it doesn't matter what's said off the field, Penn State is just way, way better than Illinois right now?
I think Penn State's way, way better. Now, Illinois has won a couple recruiting battles in the state of Pennsylvania that Penn State didn't like. I mean, they weren't for top 100 players, but they were recruiting battles, and Bielema does a good job, especially with linemen, offensive linemen, so there's a recruiting element to this, not a huge one. Penn State doesn't go into Illinois that much, and Illinois doesn't come into Pennsylvania, although they have lately. I think it's just a better team. I don't like Luke Altmaier. I don't like this offense. I don't like what I saw at all against Kansas. They're missing a lot of players on defense. Obviously, their front is okay. Linebackers don't run that well, and their secondary is missing 4 guys, 3 of them who got drafted. They're new. So I really don't like this matchup at all. 14.5 is okay. I think they're going to win this game by 17 points.
All right, let's go over to the next game. South Carolina at number 1, Georgia. Georgia is a 27.5 point home favorite. 54.5 is the total in this game. Thor, this one's split. Tickets on the Georgia side, cash slightly on the Carolina side. Also, tickets on the under, cash slightly on the over. So seems like the betting public doesn't really know which way to go on this game. Are you taking a side strongly either way?
My line, Georgia minus 23.7. My total is 56.8, fairly close to where it is right now. For me, I'm waiting on this one to hope that it gets to 28. If it gets to 28, I'm firing on South Carolina. I don't think, where the spread is right now, to me, that's not bettable. But once it hits that key number there, I will fire on South Carolina. This line is inflated, but it's only over the one key number right now at 24. And my line is just a hair south of that, an eyelash south of that. I want that thing up to 28. If the market will give that to me, I will bet this game. Otherwise, I'm going to be a bystander.
Farrell, are you standing by, or do you like a side or the total on this game at all?
I like South Carolina here. I mean, I know they looked horrible in their opening, their offensive line, giving up 9 sacks to North Carolina. They didn't look good last week. Team's not together. But, that's a lot of points to lay in an SEC divisional matchup where some people at the beginning of the season thought South Carolina could be one of those potential Missouri teams for Georgia, maybe give them trouble into the fourth quarter. So if you're going to give me that many points, I'm going to take South Carolina. I'm not a big Spencer Rattler fan. I don't like what I see from South Carolina, but I think they're good enough to stay within that number. If Thor wants 28, I'll take 27.5.
All right, let's go over to Minnesota on the road at North Carolina, ranked number 27.5 is the spread on this game, 49.5. Another game that is just heavy tickets and cash. It's still early in the week as we record this, but we haven't seen numbers this heavy quite yet, even on late Tuesday. So tickets, cash, heavy on UNC. Your Gophers don't look maybe up to this task here, Thor, but do you have a different thought? Are you on the Gophers side here on the road, or is this UNC in a smackdown?
I agree with the market movement to this point, and it's put it right where my line is. Because like it opened beneath the touchdown. Now we're at the 7.5. My number is North Carolina minus 7.8. I just don't think there's any value there. My trepidation for North Carolina in this game is, as you guys know, Minnesota likes to play a very certain kind of way, and the new clock rules, they go towards that, right? Where PJ Fleck can just shorten all these games. The clock's always running. Last week, Sean Tyler, the presumed starting running back there, he had an okay game in the aggregate from a yardage perspective. He fumbled a couple times. PJ Fleck yanked him. He puts in this young kid who looked awesome. He was actually only a few times per year in my 50-team league. We give everyone a $1,000 free agent budget. We only get a couple $1,000 players per year. The new Gopher running back, or the guy who's now challenging Tyler, the young kid, he got a $1,000 bid this past week. But that's the way Minnesota wants to play. They're okay in the secondary, although they haven't been necessarily tested there yet. Jeff Sims obviously can't throw. That was the opener. And last week against Eastern Michigan, that's a team that is going to struggle to throw the ball this year as well. Obviously, Drake May and the UNC offense, they're going to be throwing plenty in this game. Tez Walker, he had his appeal denied. Tez Walker is going to be done for, you're not going to play for North Carolina this year. You wonder if this will be a fight for Tez kind of a game, or if missing them could come back to bite UNC in a game if Minnesota can make this thing close at the end. That's what Minnesota going to try to do. They're going to try to make this thing go as slow as possible, try to depreciate the score. Let's turn this thing into a coin flip at the end. It'll be about if they can do that. But where we're at right now, that thing getting over 7 at the 7.5 number, we're right on the margin. So I can't bet this one either way.
Darius Tyler, 33 carries against Eastern Michigan last week for 193 yards and a touchdown. Also added 2 catches. Farrell, do you have a good lean on this UNC-Minnesota game either way?
I don't like the side, but I like the under, and I know that sounds crazy because UNC's defense is not that great. They're a little bit improved from last year, though, but Minnesota, as Thor said, they're going to try to take the year out of football. They're going to go slow. They're going to be methodical. They're going to try to work that clock. They're going to try to stay in this game. They're also going to play a lot of deep safety. They're going to not let Drake May turn it over the top. They're going to make UNC run the ball and be patient. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than a lot of people think. I don't think Minnesota can score. So I think you give them maybe 10 points, and then you figure North Carolina get 24. You're going to be well under. Even if it's 31-10, it's going to be under. So Minnesota's going to try to keep it close into the fourth quarter. Not going to succeed, but it's going to be under.
All right, before we go to the next game here, I want to remind you guys to download the free Betting Pros app for iOS or Android. You can use Sportsbook Sync to automatically track your bets across all major sportsbook in one spot. Easily track your bet performance by sport and bet type, including game picks, props, and parlays. Get personalized bet recommendations tailored to your interests, including line alerts. When viewing a game of interest, simply set a game notification so that you are alerted once a line hits a certain number. At that point, you'll be notified so you can lock in your bet at that ideal line. You can set the number to be and set it by Sportsbook. Head over to bettingpros.com/apps to start setting your line alerts now, or download the Betting Pros app in the iTunes or Google Play stores today. All right, Thor, let's go over to Western Kentucky on the road against number 6 Ohio State. 27.5 is the line here. The total is 64. Cash and tickets both on the over, or both on Ohio State. Tickets on the over, lots of cash on the under, and that must have been a fairly large bet, because last night when I was looking at this, it was almost the opposite on the under. So I think maybe someone placed a large bet on the over in this game. 2 strong offenses, but I struggled to see Western Kentucky picking up as many points as they normally do against the Ohio State defense here.
Yeah, my line is right where the Vegas line is. I don't see much value in that. It's another one that's going to come down to the prerogative of the head coach of the favorite team. I think there's value in the total. My total on that game is 70.1 points. This is a defense optional type affair, and Western Kentucky. Yeah, I mean it's difficult for them to run, but they throw on everybody. They're going to throw on everybody. They're going to get their yards and their points here. And meanwhile, my trepidation with Western Kentucky coming into this year, they had gotten back Austin Reed. Obviously, Malachi Corley was back. They have a strong offensive line for the CUSA. But if it's not the best, it's the second best. But it's right there, whatever. It was the defense. The defense the last 2 years, I think, played way better than people realize, but they lost like everybody on that side of the ball. So my trepidation with the Hilltoppers has been their defense. This game is going to test them in that regard. And last week, Ohio State played an FCS team. You're wondering how quick are they going to yank out the starters? They're going to let the starters do anything. At least in the first half, they put on a show. Marvin Harrison, whereas in the first game he didn't do a lot. Last week, this is one Mike got me on, was the over on the Marvin Harrison receiving prop was like 78.5 or something like that yards. He had like a 76-yard touchdown in the first quarter. I was like, oh gosh, so like he got in one play, whatever. In this game, Ohio State certainly, at least in the first half, is going to be trying to put points on the board because they know Western Kentucky can be able to return at least a little bit of fire. Over would be the play for me here.
Farrell, you got a good lean either way on the side or total?
Over. I agree. This is also, people got to understand, Ryan Day's not under the hot seat. He's not under pressure or anything like that until he gets to the Michigan game, but he's got to go 11-0. The offense has to look good. They have to put up points. There were Ohio State fans complaining that they only put up 45 against Youngstown State. Of course, they're complaining about the Indiana game as well. They need to continue to develop on offense. They need to show Kyle McCord the guy. They're going to put up points. Ryan Day is not a run-up-the-score guy, but he's also not a conservative guy. He's not going to, he's going to score when he can score. This is going to be a first half over. This is going to be a game over. Ohio State's going to come out. They're going to want to drop 50. This Western Kentucky defense is horrible. Marvin Harrison, the reason I went over last week on that, and again, it wasn't expecting a 76-yard touchdown to just put me on the over immediately. It's because of the showcase that's needed to appease Ohio State fans and boosters. You need to have your Heisman candidate wide receiver have a big game. He didn't have one in game one. Got to have one in game two. They're going to target him more. You need to have your quarterback who's in line with the Justin Fields and Kyle McCords of the world. Justin Fields and the C.J. Strouds of the world put up big numbers. This is important to Ohio State fans, boosters. It's important to Ryan Day. They're going to put up a lot of numbers, big points. Take the over here. It's going to be a blowout.
All right, let's go over to number 11, Tennessee, a 6.5-point road favorite in the Swamp at Florida. 59 is the total on this one. Tickets cash on Tennessee, tickets cash on the under in this game. Thor, is that the way you see it going? Hard to trust Florida with the way they've looked so far.
Yeah, no. For me, so I think the right side in this game is Florida. It's just I'm not going to buy a ticket on Florida. Because I don't trust them, but I think it's probably the objectively right side here. My line in this game is Tennessee minus 5.1. Do I like what I see in Florida this year? No, absolutely not. Do I like what I see in Tennessee? No, absolutely not. Joe Milton struggled to get going last week against an FCS opponent. Florida's defense is a lot better than that. The run game in the first couple is what kept Tennessee, the offense, on schedule when Joe Milton inevitably would not know what he was looking at or would, throw a ball a million miles an hour, but not on target, whatnot. This game, it's going to be a little bit different. Florida at least has the front seven to severely hamper the Tennessee run game. And when there's pressure on Joe Milton, both in the game, but also like literally in his face, I wonder what's going to happen there. In good conscience, I can't lay that many points with Tennessee on the road, but in good conscience, I can't buy a ticket on Florida either. So I will be a spectator in this game.
Farrell, how do you see this game playing out? I saw you shaking your head when Thor said he's on the Florida side here.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good matchup for Florida at all. I don't trust them. Graham Mertz is not a good quarterback. They're going to run the ball quite a bit. And I think Tennessee's defense is a little bit improved from last year. We've only seen them in a couple of games, but a little bit improved. The biggest issue was on the back end last year for me. They're okay against the run, not great, but at least they can stop the run. But if they're able to put, 70 guys in the box and not really worry about Graham Mertz and the nameless wide receivers of Florida that it's kind of embarrassing. Such a great program has so few skill talent players. I think they're going to be able to stack the box and sort of slow Florida down. And I think eventually, the offense with your single reads. Listen, I'm not a big Joe Milton guy either. He throws the ball 100 miles an hour. Sometimes he doesn't do reads. Josh Heupel's going to dumb down the game plan against Florida. It's a simple offense. You're really going to know where the football is going if you're Joe Milton immediately on snap. And I think they're going to work the short passing game and really work into the fourth quarter. Then they might be able to get a few big hitters. So stuff the run. Billy Niebuhr is going to continue to run. He's never running. He's never going away from the run. Stack the box. Make Graham Mertz beat you. He's not going to win this game by 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, I have a hard time trusting Graham Mertz to do much on a football field right now until he shows me something different. Let's go to the next game here. Syracuse, a 2.5-point road favorite at Purdue. 58.5 is the total here. Thor, you have a good feeling one way or the other in this game?
I'm on Syracuse in this game. My number is Syracuse minus 6.6. Now, that's in a vacuum, right? Like both teams are at full strength. I will say Syracuse has two injuries right now to monitor. The one that matters is Arondé Gadsden, the big slot. They call him tight end, but big slot they have that they force a lot of usage to. And then there's center David Wohlabaugh. Those guys are both questionable for this game. Purdue is getting back their number one center. It looks like, at least if you're trusting their depth chart. They put him back on there. He missed the start of the season with an injury he suffered last year. But even so, even if both Gadsden and Wohlabaugh miss this game, I just don't think that they're worth as many points as this line is depreciated down to. The market seems a little bit higher on Purdue after last week. They go into Blacksburg and beat Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech stinks now. Like, that's not a super impressive win. What, to me, the data point that matters more is the first game you're against Fresno State at home, you lose in a game where, for most of the game, Fresno State was, playing with. It was no fluke that they lost that game. And then the next week, Fresno State has all kinds of problems getting by an FCS team. So it's not that Fresno State is still just as good as they were last year when they had Hainer and all those guys. I think it's that was, that was more on the Purdue side, that they're just not what we hoped they would be in year one under Ryan Walters and Graham Harrell running that offense. Syracuse, objectively, even on the road here, in a vacuum, you put this thing in a neutral and both teams have full strength. Syracuse should be favored by 10. But even, given Purdue the home field advantage, and then even if you're going to dock them, if Gadsden and Wohlabaugh are out, it just doesn't explain this thing getting all the way down to 2.5. So anything under a field goal, I'm for sure on the orange.
Farrell, how do you see this one going? Are you on Syracuse here as well?
Yeah, I am. I thought Purdue last week against Virginia Tech was easy money. I really don't know why some people thought Virginia Tech was going to win that football game, and I know they were home, but Virginia Tech's not a good team. It's not a great barometer of what we're going to see from Purdue. Defensively, they got a lot of work to do. And Dino Babers is fighting for his job, which sounds funny because last year the two seasons were completely different from the first half to the second half. They're 2-0 so far. They play well early in the season and then they fade because they don't have a lot of depth and they never really add. So the injuries are a concern to me, but Purdue is not a good football team. They're not ready to win this football game. I'll take Ryan Walters. The jury's still out. He's a young guy. He's still, inheriting a fairly okay football team, but they don't look good. And I'm not sure if he's over his head yet. It's too early to say that. I know Babers is the better coach right now, and I think he's going to be able to at least I think they're going to win outright. Personally, Syracuse, even without, Gadsden's very important, but even without him, I think they'll win the football game.
All right, let's go over to the backyard brawl. Pittsburgh, a 1-point road favorite at West Virginia. 50.5 is the total here. Tickets just slightly on the West Virginia side. So is cash. Same thing on the over here in this game, Thor. Do you have a good feel on Pitt versus West Virginia this week?
Yeah, I'm playing Pitt here. My line is Pitt minus 2.7 points. I also would lean towards the over. That one I'm waiting on a little bit. See how the market takes it. But my system would be on the over as well. I don't love this West Virginia team. I don't think they're very good. Pitt, I don't love them either, but I just feel like this line is too deflated on that side of it. West Virginia can only do one thing on offense. They can run the ball. But like I have all kinds of questions about their passing offense. And Pitt, they lost a few defenders over the offseason, but Pat Narduzzi and that defensive coaching staff against a one-handed offense and West Virginia defense isn't that good. They lost the only up front was where they were decent last year. Rest of it was not good, and they lost their guys up front. I don't, like I said, I don't trust this West Virginia team at all. I think Neil Brown will get fired at some point this season, later this fall. That might start here, but yeah, I think Pitt goes in there and wins.
What do you think, Farrell? Are you on Pitt as well?
I am. This is a sneaky rivalry. It means a lot to both of these programs. Last year's game was excellent. But Neil Brown, I don't trust. I think he's not even close to the coach Pat Narduzzi is. I was disappointed in Pitt last weekend. I'm really not sure what happened. They're not a great football team. They're replacing a lot on the defensive front. It's going to take a little while for those guys to get up to speed. But, as Thor mentioned, West Virginia can only do one thing. Narduzzi can figure that out. He's going to stop the run as best he can, but he's going to outcoach him. I think last year's game honestly came down to coaching. And Neil Brown made a couple boneheaded decisions. Narduzzi did not. Narduzzi's the better coach. The better coach often wins in a rivalry game if the rosters are similar, and I think these are similar rosters. So give me Pitt.
All right, easy one for Pitt there. Let's go over to the last nationally televised game. We'll talk about Colorado State at number 18, Colorado. Colorado under the lights now in the primetime era as a 23-point home favorite. 59 is the total in this one, and I know you all are going to be surprised that cash and tickets are all on Colorado here. Not quite at that over 90%, but still some bettors finding a little bit of value here in Colorado State. Thor, what do you say about Colorado at home against Colorado State?
Yeah, the tickets, the first couple games were on Colorado as well. Public loves betting them. In fact, I think it was on Saturday. Was it Dave Mason or one of the guys that runs one of the sports books said there was more money on Colorado than at that time when he put this tweet out than on any NFL game that weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. So the public is obviously rallying behind Colorado. And, obviously in the first game, I was behind Colorado. I was also behind Colorado last week. And, what you heard in advance of the opener was like, oh, you're just getting caught up in the hype. And then what you heard last week was like, all the sharps are against you. Like, the sharps are wrong. Sometimes you have to have your own read on this. I don't know why those guys haven't figured it out yet. They're on their same data points as last year when they were too low on USC, too low on LSU, too low on Florida State, too low on Ole Miss. All those teams flew over their win total. The ones who they overturned most of their roster, more than any other Power 5 team in the portal. And the Sharps throughout the season were too low on all those teams. They have decided to make the same mistake with this Colorado team, even though I don't know if we've ever seen a year-to-year talent spike in the history of college football.
Right.
Like we did with Colorado this year. So it's like maybe that's a data point you should tie into your system a little bit. As for mine, I was showing line value on Colorado the first two games. Obviously, that's why I was on them. I don't care what the Sharps do. I don't. It's my read. This game as well, the line is too low. So it becomes, I think my line was with 26.5, something like that for Colorado. It becomes, is this going to be a letdown spot for Colorado? And I see people are already starting to argue that perhaps it would be. This is like, if you're going to argue like, oh, they just care about TikTok and Prime about, his stuff, whatnot. Now they're going to have a letdown game against this crappy opponent on College Game Day. College Game Day is going to be there. I don't think Colorado is going to no-show this opportunity when they're on the big stage. They've proven it twice. That's what you're banking on if you're going to bet Colorado State.
Recruits are watching.
Recruits are watching. Like, this is your shot now. Again, College Game Day going to be there the whole time. That thing going to start up in the morning. And the on-field handicap here. So I'm just talking objectively and then, sort of the non-objective stuff. But you get into the matchup in the handicap on the field. What is a characteristic of a team that they would need to have to beat this Colorado team, you have to have a pass defense, right? Colorado lit up the first two teams they played. You have to be able to stop the pass. If you can do that, the Colorado, maybe they won't have the recourse on the ground, but as a prerequisite to beat this Buffalo team, you have to be able to slow the pass. Can I tell you guys now where Colorado State ranks in SP Plus pass defense?
Low.
I would love to go through it. Passing success rate, 126th. 89th against passing marginal explosiveness. Yards per dropback. Colorado State's pass defense is 125th out of 133. Adjusted net air yards per attempt, 126th. Passing completion rate, 131st. Does that seem like it might be problematic against a team that has ripped up both the pass defenses that they've played so far? Teams that heading into the season we thought were pretty solid. Maybe now our opinion changed because they play Colorado. But, oh my gosh, this Colorado State team is in big trouble here. If you can't stop the pass against Colorado, they will put up points on you every single time. This isn't looking good. This one's Buffalo's in a rout.
Do you agree, Farrell? Is this all Colorado all night?
Yeah, obviously in the first game against TCU or against Colorado, I thought they'd get drilled. They did not. They looked good. They struggled in the beginning against Nebraska. A lot of people were like, oh, okay, maybe TCU was a fluke. Nebraska's defense is good. They got to figure it out, and then they end up getting killed. And yeah, Nebraska made a lot of mistakes in there, and TCU has no defense. But Colorado State's going to make a lot of mistakes. They have no defense. What are we expecting to be different here? And Deion is a master motivator. The first one was, let's prove it to everybody. People don't think we can hang with TCU. They played the national championship game last year. They were going to lose by 50. Last week was Matt Rule and this made up, shade that Matt Rule, he made a couple comments about I'm not always on camera and we don't talk, we work, and the couple transfer portal things. It's just made up stuff. I mean, Matt Rule didn't come out and say, Deion, you're doing it all wrong, or Deion this, Deion that. That's what they do. They Deion finds things, puts it in his players' heads. He's a tremendous motivator. So guess what this is? This is the in-state rivalry. This is, everybody thinks you aren't the better team in Colorado, which is crap. I mean, Colorado State stinks. But we're, a better team than Colorado last year. It's hard to be worse. So he's going to use that. They're going to win this game probably by 35 points. I think Colorado State has a new quarterback. There's a lot of issues that Colorado State has to deal with here, and they can't stop the passes, Thor said. So they're going to get absolutely drummed. I wouldn't touch the over-under. I would go with the side and take Colorado to win this one. 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's going to be a rout for sure. I'm with you guys on this one. That's all the nationally televised games, Thor. Any other games that we didn't cover here that you have a really good feeling on that you want to tell the people about?
I'm on Southern Miss plus the points and big time on the under of that game because I don't think Michael Pratt's playing for Tulane. So we hit that one at the open. The over-under in that game has fallen from 53 at open to 49.5, at least before we started recording in this game. And that's before the Pratt news has come out. I think that thing's going to fall further. So that would be one. I'd also get on Southern Miss before that news comes out. So that would be one. A couple other ones that we didn't talk about. Let's see. Kansas State, I like whatever they're laying against Missouri. I don't think we hit on that one. I like that one. I'm laying the points with Maryland against Virginia for a couple of reasons. But, yeah, they're way better than them. Farrell, I also got to fade your UConn Huskies this week. I'm taking the 10.5 points with Florida International.
How are they my Huskies?
Going into stores.
I don't even like them. I don't. I like Jim Mora Jr. I hated Randy Edsel with passion. I've hated UConn forever. I went there for a year, drank my way out, 0.7 GPA. I could claim UConn as my own. I went there. I actually spent classes. I don't like UConn. They're not my team. BC's my team, and they stink, and UConn would beat them straight up. But I get it. So one thing I think, whatever the line is for Bama USF, take Bama. Now, I don't think this is a scary Bama team. I don't think this is a good Bama team. They got a lot of issues,
But they're angry now.
Oh, they're real angry. And Saban's going to rile them up, and they're going to win this game probably by 40 points. It doesn't change a thing. It doesn't mean Alabama's a national title contender, but people will be slightly off. Oh my gosh, he lost at home. It's the largest deficit at home. Blah 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 blah. They're going to drill him, and then he's going to refocus for the SEC schedule. But it's funny because LSU and Alabama, who were the prohibitive favorites in the SEC West, I think both are average football teams and don't have a shot at the playoff whatsoever. And that opens it up for another team, from the Power Five, because I think you're going to have Georgia from the SEC and not a second team. But Saban's going to run it up against USF.
Any other games that you like this week, Farrell, that we didn't cover?
That was the big one. The Nick Saban thing, you remember we talked about it last week. Thor and I took Texas, getting 7.
All three of us did.
Yeah.
Congrats, Bogman.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you expect from him? I mean, he's going to take Texas against everybody.
I am biased. Yes, I have bias. Yeah.
It was painful to take that. And I still thought Alabama would win the game and figure out a way to win the game in Tuscaloosa, and they did not. Betting against Nick Saban feels weird. Doesn't make sense to me. I won, so now I'm going to double down a little bit on taking Saban. And the lines for Alabama are going to be deflated quite a bit for the rest of the season, which is going to be interesting. You can make some money on Alabama this year, so that's the one I'm pointing to. I know Thor's got. I like Kansas State over Missouri as well. I think they're
Missouri
very
looks tough.
Solid football team. UVA could be the worst team in college football. I mean, it's kind of saying a lot, but they're really, really, really bad. I mean, JMU beat them. They couldn't even hang with a Tennessee team that looked sloppy. They stink. Tony Elliott, you need to fit there. So I agree with Thor on a couple of those games.
All right, well, that will wrap it up for us today for the Week 3 preview show here on Betting Pros. Remember, follow us all on Twitter at Bogman Sports for myself, at ThorKU for Thor, and at MFarrell Sports, 2 R's, 2 L's for Mike. And we will see you guys next week. Take it easy, everybody.